We all approach life and ideas and things from our own perspective because that's the only one we know. And sometimes half the battle in getting someone to change their minds is to shift their vantage point, to allow them to see something from a different perspective. I mean, talking about vantage points, I love this. Like this image here, if I asked you to caption that image, I wonder what your caption would be. My caption would be, when your little brother asks you to endorse his book. I feel like that's that'd be the appropriate response, okay? But here's the thing, your mind could make up a full story about this moment just based on that image. What if I show you this exact moment from a different vantage point? Like exactly the same moment, but now the entire context, the narrative changes. And so the question then is, if we're trying to persuade others to approach things differently, how do we try and shift their vantage point? How do we reframe reality in a way that sort of starts to guide or have an impact on their decisions and their behaviour? I saw this principle play out a couple of years ago when I was in the US doing a book launch over there. So the whole book launch caper is like a PR agency sets up all these media interviews, like podcasts and radio stuff and TV. When I looked through the media schedule, there was this thing that was in there, and I thought it was a mistake at first, but then I asked, and it was actually fully legit. And it was to fly to Florida to record an episode, a segment on the Home Shopping Network. And I'm like, wow, okay, well, I'll roll with it and see what it's like. So I go down to Florida for the Home Shopping Network thing, and if I'm honest, I've always been a bit judgy about the whole infomercial thing, just because of the stuff they've sold over the years. Here are three of my favourite infomercial products that have made me so judgy about this industry. The potty putter, for instance, was one of their hits a few years ago, for those who just can't stand going to the toilet and just not doing anything else, but potty putter is your thing. What about this here? This is called the Rejuveneque, with a Q-U-E. It's apparently like an anti-aging mask, but like nothing spells romance on a Friday night like popping that thing on, right? So that's the Rejuveneque. And then you've got the sauna hot pants that were a massive hit in the early 90s. And when I saw this, I'm like, just why? Like, what was the point and the purpose? But apparently they were a big hit. So I've always been a bit judgy about infomercials. So I turn up on set, feeling a little bit smug. I'm like, what's this all going to be like? And I was stunned at how sophisticated the whole infomercial world is. So I'm sitting there on set, and the two hosts are chatting back and forth with the earpieces in, getting coached by the producer. And every time they do like the sales pitch, they'd slightly tweak the phrasing they were using, because they were getting feedback from callers or people ordering online, and they were seeing what gets the best results. And it was a marvelous thing to watch. I was like, this is artwork right here. They were so clever. And I was chatting with the producers afterwards, and they said, actually, this whole thing of like the phrasing they use is actually, there is a real art to it. In fact, for a number of years, the standard call to action on infomercials was this here. Operators are standing by, please call now. That's the standard thing they'd always say at the end of the infomercial. And a few years ago, they decided to start experimenting with different ways of asking people to call, different calls to action. And the one they struck on by accident was a game changer. In fact, this caused a threefold increase in the number of people calling through to make orders. And here was the phrasing they used. If operators are busy, please call again. Now, on face value, you might think that would actually put people off calling, because you're almost saying to them, you probably won't get through, or you might have to wait for a really long time. But why did this cause a threefold increase in calls? A bit of FOMO, a bit of herd mentality. Like, everyone else is calling, I guess I should too. And that reframing, the different approach to using language, made a massive, massive difference.